Zettel für die lange Weg. 2 Flaschen Whisky für die Zeit. Und ich date gern habe, du bist dabei. Maria geht, fahrt mal weg, ist weit. Wann ich geh, ich werd die Fehler, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir Fehler, du watch sehen. Hab kriegt mein Zettel für den langen Weg. Du scheinst da, als mir finden kann. Es hat Maria und Dale ganz wunderbar. Als ich dir den weiße dann, wann ich geh, ich werd dir Fehler, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir Fehler, du watch sehen. Well, hello, lieber Lied. Welcome to another edition of PA Dutch Live. Things look a little different tonight, I have to admit. Sometimes technology can be your best friend, and the next time it can say, not today. Well, today was one of those, my good camera. I don't know what's wrong. It just won't connect to the computer. I've never had that problem before, but we're having it tonight. So I had to use my backup webcam, which is definitely not the same quality as my good camera. So I had to move the lights around to get, what are going on? I'll tell you what, people, it was something else. As long as you can see me, I just don't look as pretty as I usually do. And I apologize for that. Hopefully till next month, I'll get all the issues sorted out with my camera. Please let me know if everything else seems to be working okay. I also have a brand new microphone thanks to the donations and all the coffees that you guys have bought me. Can you hear me okay tonight with this brand new? This is actually the very first time I'm using the microphone. So if you're watching, please, let me know. How it sounds, if I need to change anything as I'm flying, because I don't hear myself through the microphone, but somebody put in the comment section how the new microphone sounds. And I'm also, on top of it, we're having some tech issues with my guest as well. Oh my gosh, you people probably are thinking, Douglas, get your freaking act together. She's texting me right now. Hold on one second. Ay, yamaye. Oh, I think we're okay now. Oh, okay. Hari has this. Somebody, okay, Seth Moak. All right. You guys know, my head is now in about 16 different places. So people have said they can see me, I guess. And Seth just said, I can hear you. I hope this new microphone sounds great. You guys that are joining us every week know exactly what to do. And people have already put stuff in. Let me know where you're joining us from, and I'll throw some shout outs here across the bottom of the screen. We got our good friend Rachel Yoder joining us from Boyastettel. Good Obit. Well, good Obit. It is Obit now with the time change. It's dark as heck already here in central Pennsylvania. We got Edgar, Germania, Hera saying hello. Well, hello. Our dear friend Carol Kantner is joining us from beautiful, chilly downtown Burnville. It was chilly. We had a little bit of snow here at my house yesterday. I don't know, Carol, if you had a little bit of dusting or sleet or whatever down there in Burnville. But yeah, winter is here now. Martin joins us many months, and he is here again, joining us from Warren, Ohio. Marty, good to see you again. Seth, as I said, thanks for joining us. He's saying, hear you great. I'm glad the new microphone's working on. Otherwise, I would have spent that money for nothing. Dolly, our good friend Dolly from Fleetwood, Berks County, says, I look and sound great. Well, Dolly, I appreciate the comments. I don't know how. There's not enough cameras and lights in the world to make me look great, but the microphone hopefully could do the job for the sound. Our good friend Norman is back, joining us from Steinbach am Glan. He says, Gute Maria, good morning, because in Germany right now it is after midnight, so he's tomorrow already. Well, thanks for joining us, Norman, as you do most months. Tell your lovely daughter I say hello as well. Jerry is joining us from North Augusta, South Carolina, and we got, oh man, we're all over the place. Matt joining us from Front Royal, Virginia. Shout out. Good to see you again, Matt. Our good friend Brigitte is joining us from Philly. We're going to hear more from Brigitte later on in the show. Spoiler alert. Fred is saying, York, PA, my man. Well, it's good that York is checking in here. Thanks, Fred. We also got Cindy joining us from Sunbury, Pennsylvania. That's a part of Pennsylvania Dutch country that a lot of people always kind of forget is part of Pennsylvania Dutch country. Thanks for joining us, Cindy. David is from the other side of the country, joining us from San Diego, California. Hari, as is Nohamal. Welcome, David. Our good friends, Jeff, who was our guest last month, is joining us. Where Sidekick is from. Mount Etna. Well, the Mount Etna area there in western Berks County. Jennifer's joining us from beautiful Berks County. Pete's joining us from Bucks County. We're going to see a little bit more Pete later on in the show, too. A little bit more of the show. Boy, there's people joining us from all over the place. This is so great. Dead Prepper is joining us from Montgomery County. We got Montgomery, Berks County, Lebanon County. We're all over the place here. And finally, oh my God, your New Zealand fan club is present. Barry, well, thanks for joining us from the other side of the world. Barry, what time is it in New Zealand right now? I guess it's tomorrow as well, but how far into tomorrow is it? Oh, my goodness. Barry, I'm sure will let us know here in a minute. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We got a great show, even though the tech was a little wonky tonight, but I think we're going to be okay. We're going to soldier on through. Tonight's guest, Martha Kuhns, I'll be bringing her on here in just a couple minutes. But as always, I like to bring everybody up to date on some things going on in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch country. We're going to hear from Martha here in a little bit, and she's going to tell the story of the famous hanging of Susanna Cox. If you don't know the history there, you are going to be blown away with this story for sure. Some things coming up in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch country area. We got Mountain Mary is definitely on display. Well, not her, but pictures about her. So please check out, if you have the opportunity in the greater Kutztown area, right now at the Kutztown Cultural Heritage Center, there is a brand new exhibit all about Mountain Mary, the contemporary visions of a sainted healer, that is taking place in their brand new center. And it just opened. Actually, it opened today, but it'll be running for quite a while. So pop in and see that. But also, very special event on November 20th. Dr. Josh Brown, a good friend of mine from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, will be speaking about celebrating Mountain Mary, the art of folkcraft, and followed up by a lecture by Patrick Dunmore, the director at the Cultural Heritage Center there in Kutztown, Anna Maria Jung, sainted healer of the Oli Valley. So that is Sunday, November 20th. I do believe you need tickets. I don't know if there's any left. I would imagine so, but I don't know. Give the center a call or check out kutztownfestival.com/events if you want to check out that awesome opportunity. Also, we have the 51st Gallows Craft Show is coming up on Friday and Saturday, the 25th and 26th of November, and that is in Gilbertsville. You can go down and check that out. I'm not sure if they have a website or a Facebook page. Maybe they do, but that is definitely an opportunity to get some Christmas gifts and maybe even a piece of art showing off to our good friend, the Belschnickel. One other thing, well, I think I have a couple of things showing with you, but if you are in the greater Berks County area, also the Berks History Center, our good friends, we've had them on the show before in the past. In December, on the 8th, they will be having another brunch and brushes where they do art. And the last couple months, they've been focusing on Pennsylvania Dutch themed art, which I think is wonderful. This event will also be doing that. As you can see, I guess that's the image there that you'll be recreating or something along those lines. And that'll be run by their museum curator, Amber Vroman, who's a friend of the channel. So check that out. For more information, just check out the Berks History Center's website or also their Facebook page where they keep up to date on all the things that they're doing there at the Berks History Center. Also, there's another opportunity for you to go Christmas shopping, and that is on the 9th and 10th of December in historic Schaeferstown. That's over in Lebanon County. Their their Christmas market, will be taking place at St. Paul's United Church of Christ in the social hall. You can see the times there from 4 to 8 on Friday and from 9 to 3 on Saturday. You can find out more information if you visit their Facebook page. That's Historic Schaeferstown. Another opportunity for you to support local artists and also get your Pennsylvania Dutch themed art. There's tons of stuff going on. December 10th, they're at the Leesport Lock House. There's going to be a redware workshop. Redware. I want to have a guest at some point on in the future who can talk about redware and that tradition among the Pennsylvania Dutch. That's not tonight, but hopefully in the future. But there's an opportunity for you to check out Zettelmoyer's pottery. And you can find all the information about that on online and on their Facebook page. one last thing, I think. My goodness. Do you ever want to learn Pennsylvania Dutch, but you live pretty far away? Well, now's an opportunity for you. Again, our good friends at the Berks History Center are really going full hog on PA Dutch stuff here lately. And they are going to be offering a virtual Pennsylvania Dutch class running from January 9th through February 27th. The prices are there. If you're a member, $50. If you're a non-member, $120. That class will be run by our good friend, Brad Smith, who has been on the show in the past. They had so many people sign up for the in-person classes that they offered this fall that they decided to throw it out there in a virtual online format. And last I talked to him, he said he couldn't even count as high as the number of people that were showing interest. But it's not too late. You too can register. So reach out to the Berks History Center to get signed up for that virtual PA Dutch class. So no matter where you live, you can check that out. When I was a kid, I used to watch Hee Haw every Saturday night with my grandparents. And there was always a moment in each episode where they'd all be standing out there in the fake cornfield. Those of you that watch Hee Haw know this. And they would salute some random small town in America. Well, I thought, now darn it, that's something I want to do too. So my plan from here on out, every episode coming up, is to choose a random small town in Pennsylvania Dutch country and throw out a salute. Well, tonight, our initial one will be a place very close to where I grew up. We're sending out a salute to Charlottesville, Berks County, Pennsylvania, founded in 1765. And my last search online found their current population somewhere around 478. It's right there, a little town along I-78 at the foothills of the Blue Mountains. Next month, I'll have another small town in Berks, somewhere in Pennsylvania Dutch country, and give them a salute as soon. If you have an idea for a town that you'd like me to do, send me a message and let me know, and we'll put it on the list. All right, enough of me schwetzing at you. It's time to bring on the person that we want to hear talk, and that's our good friend, Martha Kuhns. Martha is going to be talking to us tonight about this story of Susanna Cox. If you've never heard it, great. If you have heard it, that's awesome too. If you've ever been to the Kutztown Folk Festival, maybe that name will sound familiar to you. So without further ado, let me remove this from my stream and bring Martha in. Hello, Martha. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Martha. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show tonight to talk about the topic of Susanna Cox.
I don't know how you talked me into this. Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad that I did. Just to give a little bit of a background about you, Martha, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
I am at least fourth generation Kutztown and Pennsylvania Dutch on both sides. I'm in Kutztown. I'm living in the house I grew up in now. It seems like a lot of us do that, come back eventually. And yeah, and tonight I made myself some sweet potatoes and cabbage for dinner, and then I added a little tofu and hot sauce and put it in a tortilla.
We'll let that. Well, no, that's okay. Fusion's where it's at these days, and we can just show.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so Martha, if no one has, if someone's coming into this conversation and knows absolutely nothing about this story in our history, where do we even begin?
Well, my involvement with the story of Susanna Cox comes from the Kutztown Folk Festival, and growing up in Kutztown, the folk festival is a part of every kid's life, and we ran around the festival and we saw the hanging because at the festival for almost, well, we think it's over 65 years now, they've been telling and doing a historical reenactment of the hanging of Susanna Cox, which is, you know, when I tell people this outside of Kutztown, they kind of wince, like, why are you doing that? What's the deal there? Well, as I understand it, the folk festival in its early years devoted one night to storytelling. And this was a story that became very popular on the storytelling night, kind of a scary little story. But then it quickly morphed into doing a historical reenactment with a period correct gallows and a dummy, an effigy of Susanna. And so that's what we've been doing for well over 60 years. My role in it is I am possibly the fourth or fifth person that has the honor of telling the story up on the gallows. And before me was a dear friend of my mother's, June de Turk. People who have seen the hanging are probably wondering, how's June? Where's June? She celebrated her 99th birthday on Sunday,
Wow.
and she is doing great. She is terrific. In any event, probably because I knew June my whole life and knew about the hanging, I approached June and said, if you ever feel like you want to hand this off to somebody, and she was very reluctant, very reluctant. She said, now when I can't go up the gallows steps anymore, then that's when you can do it. You know, well, she still did it at 98, you know, so, but we had kind of a transition. She called me her understudy, and we'd get to the base of the gallows. And if it was a hot day, she'd say, now, Martha, they say when it's this hot, people my age shouldn't be outside. And I'm in my 60s, but she's in her 90s. So I defer to her and say, of course, I'll do it. I'll go up and do it. You just sit in the shade, you know. So that being said, Susanna Cox was the last woman to be publicly executed in Pennsylvania. And she was hanged for the crime of infanticide. She was convicted of killing her infant son. So the way we tell the story, we start out with a passage from one of the broadsides. And do your listeners know what broadsides are?
Well, just tell them real quick in case there is anybody out there that doesn't.
A broadside, I actually have one here, which is kind of beat up. But it was basically like a flyer that was handed out, and it just it was in verse, and it told the story of what was going on. And so the one of Susanna Cox, there's quite a few. The one we start out with, I get up on the gallows and I'm all in black, and Susanna's there with a hood over her head and a noose around her neck, and I start out, all ye who feel for others' woes, with hearts compassionate, oh, listen to the woeful tale of a poor damsel's fate. Susanna Cox, a country maid, young and of a beauty rare, in Oley as a servant had long lived with Jacob Gare. Ne'er had she been instructed in the course of human law, nor did she know God's holy word, which strike the world with awe. For everyone must be aware of what he daily sees, that whom the scriptures don't restrain, they'll do just as they please. So that's how we start out. And then I spend about the next 10 minutes giving the backstory here, which is essentially Susanna was born to a very large and poor family. She was born in 1785. And when she was 13 years old, she was sent to live on the farm of Jacob Gare, where she worked as an indentured servant. And the deal was, as all poor girls did in those days, she would work there until someone came to marry her. But no one ever came for Susanna. So they think she was possibly mentally slow. We don't think she spoke English. She probably just spoke the dialect. And she, by all accounts, was happy there. And until at the age of 24 in 1809, she became pregnant. Yes, so, and that was they think she was probably assaulted, or something was going on with a neighboring farmer. Uh, he, of course, was never specifically named. I mean, they think they know who it was, but it wasn't. I don't know. Back at that time, it was the mothers who got in trouble. The fathers were kind of off the hook. Uh, so she became pregnant, and she concealed the pregnancy because she pretty much knew that if they discovered that she was pregnant and not married, she would be tossed out, lose her position, and then what? There really weren't options for young women at that time. So there she was with an unwanted pregnancy. She gave birth in February, and it was very cold. And uh, 2, 3 days after she gave birth, the body of her dead infant son was found wrapped in an old coat in the root cellar. Uh, so that's when the body was discovered. They quickly took Susanna to Reading, put her in jail, uh, and she remained there for a few months uh, while they were preparing for the trial. And ultimately, she was convicted and sentenced to be hanged. Now, the legal proceeding, I think, is what really made this story important for its time. She did have court appointed lawyers. I understand they were pretty high profile lawyers for the time. And the state sent its biggest prosecutor to do this. And so it was kind of a big legal circus. But again, records of the trial have gone missing. So so we really don't know for sure a lot of things that should be there had the records not disappeared.
Can I interject and ask a question? And maybe you don't know the answer, but this is something I'm thinking of just sitting here. So it's we're pretty sure that her English ability was limited, if any. Correct.
Right.
I mean, that's what, right. So she's on trial. And
Yeah.
what was the court system like at that time? And we're talking 1809 in Berks County, Pennsylvania, when the majority of Berks County citizens are Pennsylvania Dutch speakers, but
Right.
yet the court, a trial is going to be held in English, I would, correct?
Right.
So
Right.
how does that work? Do we know? Did she have someone translating for her? Or, I mean, come on.
Again,
This is,
we don't know for sure, but we think there was no translator and she didn't really understand the full nature of the proceedings. Uh, we know she was illiterate. Um, she couldn't read or write, uh, couldn't sign her name. She had no religious instruction really until she got to the jail. And while she was in jail awaiting trial, the women of Reading came and taught her things. They made her a new dress. Um, the dress she wore, the only new dress they say she ever had was the one she wore the day she died. Um, yeah.
so do
So
you think, from what you've read, do you think that, I mean, I would imagine there were two sides in the community. There was the side that was probably like, she's a murderer. She killed a baby of all things. So hang her, hang her, hang her.
right,
But then maybe was there an undercurrent of sympathy for her among, I don't know, even among the Pennsylvania Dutch or among the people of the Ole Valley, or do we know anything about that?
absolutely. I think that's also why her story is told over and over again because uh, the there was a great deal of sympathy for her. I mean, the fact that this was the last woman to be publicly executed speaks to, uh, the tide was turning. People didn't think it was, something we needed to see, that it was barbaric. So it definitely, they were very sympathetic to her, also given her, limited cognitive state, and the trial went pretty quickly. Yeah, there was a great deal of sympathy for her. So I think that's why we keep her story alive. Uh, there are ballads written about it. I'm not one to sing any of those ballads, but yeah. So that's that, and it also influenced the law regarding the appeals process. Um, it was there was a lot of outcry when she was sentenced to death, uh, but there was also uh, they also had mandatory sentences for particular crimes, and um, women who uh, were found to have a dead baby uh, could be sentenced to death, uh, whether or not they caused the death.
Mm.
So it was that, and that was what they were doing in England back
Oh,
in
okay.
the 1700s. But they brought that law here. And so there was a time where, a lot of these women in her situation uh, would have a baby. The baby didn't make it, whatever, and they would be sentenced to death. There was just no mitigating circumstance, no such thing in the
Ho
law.
how soon after she was found guilty was the execution carried out? Was there even a time for an appeals process of any kind?
Um, they did. The appeals I think went quicker then because they said they went to the governor of the state. Simon Snyder was the governor then. But from the time she was arrested in February, uh, on April 7th, uh, she had the trial, and the trial lasted just one day. The jury was out for 4 hours, and she was convicted. So it was a pretty fast trial. Uh, she was actually then hung. Why do I not? I should know this off the top of my head. I mean, it was really days later. I mean, it was a very, very, um, very speedy trial.
And was the execution, like, well attended?
Yes, yes. Another thing that puts this on the map, they believe there were, oh, it was June 10th, that she was. So from February to June, a period of 6 months, she's arrested, she's tried, the appeals, such as they were denied, and they believe there were 20,000 people
Oh
there.
my gosh. At that time,
Yeah.
20,000 people in the city of Reading showed up for this execution.
Yep. 20,000 people. Yeah. And yeah, when she was, yeah, it's interesting. The gallows that we use are correct for the period of time that and it's pretty much, I think there's some pictures online maybe. You go up steps and then there's a platform with a trap door, and the noose is tied to an overhead bar. Yeah, there it is. You can see that. Yeah, that's June there with it. So yeah, so she would, the hangman would pull the rope on the trap door, and Susanna would drop down and hang like that. And for the period, that's accurate, but uh, the way Susanna was actually hung was not on a gallows like that. It was much more primitive. Um, it was pretty much just the crossbeam with a rope over it. And the idea was Susanna was brought to the gallows on a horse drawn wagon. Then she was to stand on the wagon. They'd put the noose around her neck and then drive the wagon off, and she would drop. Well, the hangman had the noose all set up, but it wasn't long enough because she was kind of a small person, and so they couldn't get it over her neck. So they had her stand on her coffin on the
Oh,
wagon, and then got the noose around her neck. Then the horse went. So that would be hard to do in a reenactment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we took liberties with that, I guess. Yeah, and she hung there for, I believe it was 17 minutes, till people were going, she's not dead yet. It was pretty barbaric, and then finally somebody gave her a yank, and that was that. But yeah, so every year we do this, and every year it just seems to hit home with people for different reasons, whether it's capital punishment in the news, whether it's,
Yeah.
women's rights, unwanted pregnancies,
So
education. Yeah.
you had mentioned that this was there were songs written about this afterwards and ballads and things like this. At the time, uh, where was she buried then? And was she buried in a pauper's grave somewhere in the city of Reading, or was she brought home to her family farm, or what happened to her afterwards?
Another mystery, but we're leaning towards the pauper's grave in Reading. And some people think they know where it is, but I
Oh,
don't.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. But that was it. She was not brought home.
And then I had read from other places that this trial in this case is also important because it had Pennsylvania reevaluate some things legally.
Mhm.
Can you speak to any of those, or why was this so important legally for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Well, eh, for one, they stopped doing public executions of women. Uh, they continue to do public executions of men and executions of women, but not publicly.
Okay.
So, to the extent that that was, better, I don't know. Uh, that happened. It also brought to light uh, the role of the fathers here, because this was hers was not an isolated case, and it really started an awareness of the role of these fathers, uh, who impregnated indentured servants and never had any consequences. So that was really the birth of a movement to have accountability and try and identify who the father was, and they could be fined or have to pay some amount of money. Um, you know, I don't know if that's the first child support cases we had, but
Yeah.
this really brought to light, because again, hers was not the only one happening at this time. There we Yeah, it seemed, I don't want to say common, but we're aware of at least half a dozen right around the time when her trial was going on. So um, yeah, it did bring to the forefront the idea that, gee, somebody else. It took two to make this baby, and yeah,
I've often wondered too, in regards to, and we probably don't know, but we keep going back since this is a Pennsylvania Dutch themed channel and show. We keep coming back. I keep rolling in my head the idea that you have somebody on trial that doesn't understand what's going on because they don't speak the language, and
right,
we probably would have to do all the research, but I could imagine there's been multiple trials in that time period, especially we're talking like early 1800s, late 1700s, of Pennsylvania Dutch people that went on trial and maybe were completely innocent. I'm not saying Susanna was innocent, but other cases that they could have been innocent, and because they didn't know what was being asked of them, they didn't quite understand the language, maybe they pled guilty and didn't even know it, and these types of things of like mistrials, and or the guilty person got away because an innocent person took the fall because they didn't even understand what the lawyer was asking them or what the judge was asking them. That's
exactly.
really something to, I mean, we can't go back and change history, of course, but something to think about. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's all. Yeah, that's all part of this story. It really is. I mean, because when you think about it, uh, what we know, the baby was found wrapped in an old coat in the root cellar. She claimed the baby was stillborn, but she still felt she needed to hide it. Um, there was a piece of flax in the baby's mouth, and the baby's jaw was broken. So again, there are different explanations for how that could have occurred, but none of them rose to the level of, anything other than she's guilty.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to think that by our modern standards, there's a lot of reasonable doubt in there. And
Mm,
where was the father? And
yeah.
did she really give birth alone? It
Oh,
just
yeah,
feels
that's yeah.
like somebody else must have been complicit in this whole thing.
It's some form or another. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, and we'll never know. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
That's
Right.
unbelievable. Well, I've learned I mean, I've always I mean, I was familiar with the hanging and I'm familiar with the story, but I learned a couple things tonight that I wasn't aware of in the story, for sure. Why do you think it's important that we keep telling this story?
Um, you know, it for a couple reasons. I mean, one, the story kind of there's so much to think about there. It's so rich with issues that keep repeating themselves. Um, Unwanted pregnancies, uh, poverty, education, capital punishment. I mean, these are all, I guess what would have been the hashtags for this thing.
Yeah,
But all those things keep coming up, and just when you think we've made progress, uh, it, as a society and as a legal system, some of these things seem like we could do that. That could happen again today. Maybe we
yeah,
haven't come that far.
yeah,
Maybe we're not really paying attention, and yeah, and we're having some unfortunate consequences. So yeah, so the story is, and then there's just the tradition at the Kutztown Folk Festival of telling the story. So it kind of has a life of its own.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it has taken somewhat of a life of its own, and I think we're avoiding the elephant in the room. And I don't want to take too much time to talk about this, but I think
Yeah,
I think it's important to at least mention
sure.
that for those of you that weren't at the Kutztown Folk Festival this year, now the festival was off for 2 years because of COVID. This was the first year back in person live, and the festival, I think went off great. It was great crowds, but people that were at the festival might have noticed that the story wasn't told exactly the same way. And we're not going to get political here, Martha, but let's at least tell what happens. This is what happened this summer at the festival.
Right. Okay. And next summer may be different.
Right,
Uh,
right.
we did the hanging Saturday and Sunday. We did it 3 times a day, and then Monday morning I got a call saying we're not going to do the hanging. And I said, why? Well, it's because somebody complained on social media that the hanging was upsetting. At first, I thought that was a compliment. Like it should be upsetting, okay? Right? Like you're doing it, yeah. You're telling a story. It's upsetting. This is a tragic story. It's, I am not making light of it, but uh, in response to a complaint on social media, the festival felt they didn't want the attention that that might bring. Um, it was also right after Roe versus Wade was overturned, and they were worried about protests of some kind. Uh, so there was a lot of worrying, I think, on the part of the management of the festival. So they made the decision that we would not do the reenactment. Uh, I was allowed to get up on the gallows and tell the story, but we did not have the effigy of Susanna up there. The noose, I don't think we had the noose showing. The coffin was covered in a tarp. I mean, there was no hangman, so it was weird from my perspective. And I will tell you that the response from the crowd was uh, kind of beyond disappointment. Um, you know, uh, and again, this crossed any political boundaries. I mean, you could tell maybe how people felt one way or the other on the issue, but everyone agreed that not doing the reenactment, there's something wrong there.
And we don't, at this point, we don't know what's going to be happening this summer yet at the festival. But that incident happened this summer,
Yeah.
and there were people, I think, that maybe people that were at the festival were like, well, why aren't they doing it? Because I don't think maybe they didn't have an explanation. But I just wanted people to know that this story, and again, this story is still alive in that sense, and that it's still affecting society in a way, right?
It is. It is. And there was a young man who grew up in Kutztown who heard that we stopped doing it, and he came out and he's working on a documentary about the hanging, and specifically the last hanging. And he interviewed me and quite a few other people who have been involved with the festival over the years. But it's I know the festival is rethinking the position. I don't think a decision has been made yet. They asked for my opinion. I said it's a historical reenactment, and I don't know how to make it not what it is. You either do it, and we could give a warning, caution people that maybe this will be disturbing, and maybe that will help. But I'm hoping that they decide to do it again, although it was quite an unusual festival. Yeah.
People were taken by surprise, I think, in a couple different ways.
They were. Yeah.
Well, Martha, I want to thank you so much for coming on and telling this story and hearing it from, I mean, you can look this story up on the internet, and there have been books written about Susanna Cox's trial and her murder. So if anyone's interested in learning more, definitely, if a quick Google search can get you to where you can purchase books about the story. There's a couple other things online that you can check out. And then also, if you're going to be in the area of the Kutztown Folk Festival next summer, swing on in, and we'll see whatever version of the story is being told. But we'll keep it going. But thank you so much, Martha, for your expertise and coming on and sharing this story with us.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Thank you.
What a story. And Martha does it well. I've seen her tell the story at the festival. She knows her stuff. And you can also, if you do the Google search, as she mentioned, there have been multiple different ballads and songs written about the story of Susanna Cox. That was a tradition in the 1700s and going even farther back, where you take an event in history and then write a ballad about it. And this is one that those ballads exist. Most of them were written in English. There have been a couple Pennsylvania Dutch versions. I know that Keith Brinsenhoff, our good friend, has recorded a version of one of the ballads where he sings the ballad. So you can learn more about this story. I think it's an interesting story, also a part of Pennsylvania history and Pennsylvania Dutch history that maybe not everyone is aware occurred. And that's one of the things I love, to be able to bring guests on like Martha onto the show to tell these stories that are lost or forgotten, or in a lot of cases, people just don't know they occurred. So I'll keep, moving forward into the new year, we'll keep looking for those types of historical events and stories to bring guests onto the show in the future, so that you can learn a little bit more about our shared history as well. Okay, everybody, back to the show real quick. I got a couple other things. Of course, every month we bring you some kind of language lesson, whether it's a poem or last couple months I've been picking words to help you learn some Pennsylvania Dutch. And it is November, and it is Thanksgiving next week. Next week is Thanksgiving already. Hopefully you guys are all ready. So I chose a couple Thanksgiving / fall November types of words that we can practice our Pennsylvania Dutch with. I have the Pennsylvania Dutch down the left-hand side, and the right-hand side's the English, so you can follow along on either side you want. I'm going to say the Pennsylvania Dutch nice and slow for you, and you can practice right along with me. So here we go. For the month of November in German, it's German and Pennsylvania Dutch, it's really easy. November. Now, Thanksgiving, there's more than one word. I guess it depends, where you grew up or what variant of Pennsylvania Dutch you speak. I grew up hearing the first one, but I know other people that call it the second one. So here are both, depending on, you can use either one. Danksfest, or Betdog. And Betdog has more of this idea of like a day of prayer, meaning of giving prayer of thanks. Dankfest is a festival of thanks. That would be the best translation. We're all I would imagine all of us are going to be eating this next Thursday. Es Welschhinkel. Es Welsh hinkel is the word for turkey. And for gravy, there's more than one word in the dialect. Just depends which one and where you grew up or where you live. There's debris, and estunkus. Estunkus. Both work. One of my favorite things on any table, but let alone especially on Thanksgiving, is esfilsel. Esfilsel. Now, for us Pennsylvania Dutch, when we say filling, we mean potato filling, Pennsylvania Dutch potato filling. And if you're joining this show and you've never had that, you are missing out. Mashed potatoes with bread and sauteed celery and carrots and lots of milk and butter and eggs. And oh my God, is that good then with a little bit with a lot of gravy. Oh my God, kan net besser sein, as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch. It doesn't get any better than that. Another thing that I love and that will be on the Maidenford table next week is gedrikkelde Welschkan. Gedrikkelde Welschkan, which is dried corn. I want to do a video for the YouTube channel at some point on how my family makes dried corn. There's a lot of different recipes out there, but the one that I grew up eating is taking dried corn, reconstituting it, and then adding brown sugar, butter, milk, salt, pepper. Oh, I'll do a video in the future on how I grew up making gedrikkelde Welschkan, dried corn. Brot und Butter, bread and butter. Of course, that'll probably be on your table. And then for dessert, it's Thanksgiving, so boy, pumpkin pie. And if yours is like the Maidenford one, it'll be a little spiked with something, but you don't have to spike it, of course. And then right after Thanksgiving, for a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch, that is another holiday. Rifle deer season in Pennsylvania begins the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So if you or someone in your family is going out hunting right after Thanksgiving, here are some words for them to have. The word for a hunter or the hunter is da Jäger, and the verb to hunt is yaw. And then what they're hunting for, da hash is the word for a deer. And just the last two things, I came up with two phrases that you can use next Thursday. And if you want to wish somebody a happy Thanksgiving, Halliges Dankfest. Halliges Dankfest. And if your family prays before the meal, now you can at least start the prayer in Pennsylvania Dutch by saying, Los uns beten. Los uns beten. Let us pray. And if you know more Pennsylvania Dutch, you can say the whole prayer in Pennsylvania Dutch. What the heck? Don't stop it. Just let us pray. So there's some Pennsylvania Dutch words for you to practice, to use, so that you're all ready next Thursday. When you sit down for that big meal, whether it's at lunch or at dinner, sprinkle a little Pennsylvania Dutch in your Thanksgiving dinner table conversation. How's that sound? Every month, we also get to enjoy some Pennsylvania Dutch music. Oh, I want to go back real quick. Someone has a great question here. I just saw. Kathy wants to know, what does the prefix Welsh mean before Hinkle and corn? All right. So it means foreign, actually, but it's not a Pennsylvania Dutch word. So in Pennsylvania Dutch, the word for foreign or strange is frem. Frem, F-R-E-M. D, a lot of times also written. But Welsh, and here's an example where we have some English influence into our Pennsylvania Dutch. In English at the time period, when we're going back into the 16 and 1700s, real quick lesson. Welsh meant anything that was foreign, because if you think of it from the English perspective, in England and in Great Britain, the Welsh people spoke a very different language and a very different culture from those of the English. So things that were referred to as Welsh were seen as foreign. This was also found in the German of the time period as well, because the Welsh were these Celtic peoples were so different from a lot of the other peoples of Europe. And the word was then adopted. So when we say Welsh hinkel, that literally means foreign chicken. A hinkel's a chicken. So when you have to imagine, a turkey was an animal, a bird native to North America. There weren't turkeys running around Europe. This was especially when the first, as Europeans came into contact with North America at the beginning. And corn, the same way. Sweet corn was also something that was a foreign concept to the Europeans, because they didn't have sweet corn like we have here in North America. So they called it foreign corn, Welsh kan. Welsh hinkel, foreign chicken, and Welsh kan, foreign corn, or strange or different. So thanks for the question, Kathy, but that's the best explanation I can give you. Okay, music. Every month I try to bring you guys a song in Pennsylvania Dutch, and sometimes it's me, sometimes we get to feature other artists. A couple months ago, I had the pleasure of sharing with you guys the Gustavson family. I don't remember the name of the song off the top of my head that they sang for us, but they, Brigitte Weinsteiger, who's joining us tonight, and Mr. Gustafson is also watching tonight. They sent me a new video and said, would you be willing to share this song with your audience tonight? And I said, absolutely. So let me get to the right tab. Here we go. Okay, share. So this was just sent to me. This is, now for those of you that have watched the show before and are familiar with my YouTube channel, one of the songs that Chris and I perform almost every time we perform in public is the Pennsylvania Dutch folk song, Hei Li Hei Lo. There's more than one version out there of that song. The melody that we sing and the words that we sing is the version that I grew up learning and hearing. We're going to hear the Gustavsons version of this, and it's the same words, but a different melody. And there are other melodies out there for this song. So I'm going to shut up now and let them blow you away with their wonderful music ability. Enjoy.
Die Steine im Mist bis an die Knie. Mir schlachte die Kälber und verkaufe die Heid und gebe das Geld zu die armen Leid. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer wie länger, wie schlimmer. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer ja so. Die Henkel im Stall, die gehen uns tot. Wir schlagen sie Knick und fressen sie tot. Die Schuhe vom Himmel, die Krieger wie die Hunde springen aus und blicken die See. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer wie länger, wie schlimmer. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer ja so. Oh Mami, was fehlen die jetzt? Sie stehen da im Dreck und schütteln ihr Schwänz. Oh Mami, was fehlen die? Sie spart ihr Verwahr und weiß und zu. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer wie länger, wie schlimmer. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer ja so.
Dat grunnade hem hemma en alles Haus. Dat die Mami in ihrer Haus. Die Mami, die hat den Haarschrank und mag den Kinderlen roter Rock.
Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer wie länger, wie schlimmer. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer ja so. Die Mami backt Kuchen, sie macht sie so hart. Sie schließt sie in den Keller und gibt mir den Sack. Und dann, mei Albi, wär's wieder so matt. Du nimm mich, mei Kundel, und gib mal gut Nacht. Hei Li Hei Lo, Hei Li Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer wie länger, wie schlimmer. Hei Li Raue, dat raus, dat Guckerei mit zum Schlüsselloch raus. Dat runter, dat drüber, dat Raue, dat raus. Da steht jo der Dodi mit dem Hämmerschwanz raus. Hei Li, Hei Lo, Hei Li, Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer viel länger, wie schlimmer. Hei Li, Hei Lo, Hei Li, Hei Lo, bei uns geht's immer ja so.
What can you say to that? I was muted. I was so excited listening. I muted myself so I wouldn't sing along because, oh my God, how great are they? Seriously, how great are they? Thank you so much to the Gustavsons for their lovely song. I am trying to get them to, of course, keep sending me music whenever they want to. The invitation is out there anytime, dear friends. Brigitte, that's, please. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful version of Hei Li Hei Lo. After they sent that to me, I listened to it and I was like, well, it's a melody. I never heard of that song. And I wrote her back and I said, I have to ask. And she said that, and if I remember correctly in the email, it is a Swiss version of that song, or the melody is at least a Swiss version of that song. So thank you again so much for sharing your talent. And that is a talented family, let me tell you. With all of us tonight. Thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing more from you guys in the future. Hey, we're getting towards the end, but a couple things here at the end. We got, our good friend Rachel Yoder and I, we have that Zazzle shop where we're have Pennsylvania Dutch merchandise for sale. We have some brand new images that are out that are now for sale that you can purchase if you visit our site. And I'll put the link here in a minute. But Christmas is right around the corner. It's a great opportunity for you to buy some Christmas gifts for maybe those hard to buy Christmas people, or what the heck, Christmas gifts for yourself, right? So we have tons of different Pennsylvania Dutch themed items. Here are just some that are some of the newer ones on the left. We got our version of the Belschnickel saying "Gebacht," which means watch out. Der Belschnickel is watching. He sure is. On the right, I really like this one. Shout out to the 1990s. Of course, there was that famous song, "I'm Too Sexy for This Shirt." But we decided to say, well, we're Pennsylvania Dutch, so I'm too hexy for this shirt. And we got a nice hex sign there in the background. And one that we just worked on this week, and I really like this one. I'm only showing you the image. This, of course, you can get on a t-shirt or anything else. But if you remember back in the 1980s, license plates in Pennsylvania said, "You have a friend in Pennsylvania." And I said to Rachel, let's take that idea and run with it. And this is what we came up with. Rachel designed a vintage style license plate, just like they were in the 1980s. And we did it in Pennsylvania Dutch. "Du hushed and Freund in Pennsylvania. You have a friend in Pennsylvania." And then we put for the license plate PD 1683, because 1683 was the first year that the Pennsylvania Dutch sailed into Philadelphia and eventually founded Germantown. So there's some new merch on the website. Please check it out. You don't have to get t-shirts. That's the other thing. I've been saying this, but I want to reiterate it. You can get these images on magnets. They do shirts, they do sweatshirts, they do aprons. It's like over 1,000 different products that you can get our images that have been designed to put on. So check out the website. It's zazzle.com/PA Dutch stuff. And, get out there and buy some stuff and show off your Pennsylvania Dutch pride. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Check it out. If you like what we're doing here and you want to financially support us, I'd greatly appreciate it, but no pressure. You can buy me a coffee. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/Doug Maidenford, and any money that is donated goes to the upkeep of the channel. For example, coffees that you guys bought me got me this brand new microphone that we're working, and I'm going to use some of the money to get a new cable to hopefully fix the problem with my darn camera that didn't want to work tonight. Maybe the Belschnickel will bring me a new cable. I don't know. It's not the camera. It was the camera and the computer didn't want to talk to each other tonight for whatever reason. They weren't talking the same language. I think it might be the cable, but I was a little under the gun and I was worrying because it was like 15 minutes to showtime and I couldn't get this darn thing to work. So, but if anybody wants to support, I greatly appreciate any financial support that's given. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. We're going to keep the Pennsylvania Dutch content coming no matter what. Mark your calendars because our next episode will be, and it's on the calendar already, the 14th of December at 6 p.m. And I'm going to do another viewer call-in show. December, it's Christmas. I envision people calling in and telling us their Belschnickel stories from when they're a child, or if they just have fond Pennsylvania Dutch Christmas memories. So mark your calendar. You'll be able to join the live stream, and I can bring you on just like I brought on Martha tonight. And you can tell us your Pennsylvania Dutch memories around Christmas, whether it's the Belschnickel. We can also dip into New Year's because there's tons of great Pennsylvania Dutch traditions that we celebrate at New Year's. So that'll be on the 14th of December. I'll have some more Pennsylvania Dutch language stuff for you. And I think we're going to feature more than one song next month. It's Christmas. Got tons of great Christmas music out there and some great Pennsylvania Dutch Christmas music too. So we'll have some Christmas music for you next month as well. So please mark your calendars, and I can't wait to be with you all on the 14th. Dear friends, thank you for putting up with the technology issues tonight. Thank you so much to Martha for joining us, Martha Kuhns, and telling the story of Susanna Cox. Follow along on all of the great things that we're doing here at the YouTube channel. Also check us out on Facebook. We have the PA Dutch 101 page. We're on Instagram and Twitter as well. Just look for PA Dutch 101. Check out the Zazzle shop and get your own PA Dutch merch and all that good stuff. And until next month, I wish you all a very joyous, blessed, and thankful Thanksgiving. May your tables overflow with delicious food and be surrounded by those that you love most. And if you're going out hunting, be safe and get the big buck. I'm hoping you all shoot straight. And until next month, dear friends, as we always say, take care and Max gut. Max gut zu dir, Max gut zu dir, Max gut zu dir für now. Unsere Zeit ist all und so es ist Max gut für now. Hoff wieder mit dir zu sein. Hoff du bringst zurück ein Freund. Mag's gut zu dir, mag's gut zu dir, mag's gut zu dir für now. Unsere Zeit ist all und so es ist, mag's gut für now. Hoff wieder mit dir zu sein. Hoff du bringst zurück ein Freund. Und so mag's gut, lieber Freund, mag's gut.